Hello, thank you for joining. We're just about to start. Pauline is going to come with us in just a moment. So this is our second episode, and I'm really excited to be hosting this today and to welcome Pauline again. We have much to talk about, and please don't hesitate to ask us any question that you might have in the messages. We're monitoring them the whole time during the live, so just send us any question. Sorry, it's taking a little while. We're just still waiting for Pauline to.
Hi.
Yes! Sorry for the delay.
Sorry, I was having some connection issues.
Yes, same here. I don't think it was your connection. I think it was Instagram
okay.
having a moment because I saw your name and I couldn't connect. So okay, all good. We're together now.
Excellent.
So everyone, thank you so much for your patience. This is amazing Pauline joining us for the second episode of our Primal Path. I'm so excited to see you again.
How was your travels?
Oh, it was wonderful. Thanks, Pauline. I feel so grateful and lucky to have been all the way to Lapland for the first snow, I might add. It was the first snow of the season. So it was an absolute blessing. I felt like amazing. A little child. Yeah, it was very primal in the sense that I went on a hunting trail with one of the local hunter, and it was just a wonderful experience learning about the hunting culture, the elk hunt, the birds, and then also how they eat and make bone broth. I have to say I've drank the best bone broth I ever drank.
Teasing us.
And it was a wonder. It was a wonder. How have you been, Pauline?
Yeah, pretty good. You know, I think we're all in this crazy situation at the moment of trying to keep our physical health and our mental health all in check. And it's a challenging yet interesting period for us to grow and to learn more about ourselves and how we respond to stress and how we can respond to our environment like we as humans are designed to do, adapt and respond. So it's an opportunity to learn more.
It is, absolutely. And I'm so excited about today's topic because I think we have two things playing slightly against us now when it comes to weight control and keeping fit. We have the lockdown and we have this festive season coming. So it's
double whammy.
So I really am so excited about reshifting that and going from a place of seeing it as a threat to seeing it as an opportunity. And I feel so honored to have you talk to us about your greatest tips and tricks to handle this.
Well, I think firstly, with any kind of long-term lifestyle changes, we want to be looking at a strategy and figuring out how we can set ourselves up for success while still enjoying the festive season and remaining sane during this lockdown period, but really focusing on strategizing it and how we can create. We are creatures of change, but we are also creatures of habit. We like routine and structure, and our brains like that too. And what we found with training and running courses and helping people to make lasting change is that there are 4 key stages that really set you up for success when it comes to weight loss or improving your health or staying strong when you're trying to live a certain lifestyle, and then there are these forces drawing you off your pathway. And the first step being setting your outcome. What is it that I'm looking to achieve? And often looking beyond, say, the Christmas period, looking to maybe January or summer next year or a year away or even 5-10 years away. I personally look to when I'm 90, 100, 120 to figure out what my outcome is. My day-to-day outcome is energy and vitality and having that experience of life that comes through feeding my body what it needs, giving my brain what it needs, and being congruent with the values I've set myself. But in terms of the long-term goal, it's very much aimed at health and really prospering into my later years where I still have a quality of life, and having a crystal clear image in your mind of what your outcome is, whether it be a better relationship with yourself or better health come February, March, or even January, where you don't want to be thinking, oh, I've gained a stone and I feel sluggish and awful now. Having that outcome in mind before you enter this festive period is really important for the next 3 stages in terms of setting yourself up for success.
I absolutely love that you mentioned that, because I think sometimes having that short-term vision doesn't enable you to be in your bigger why, right?
Yes.
Because it's that long-term, almost laser-focused view of your bigger why that's going to take you there. It's just a lot of my mentors and coaches have always told me, you look behind, that's where you're going to head. You have to, as simple as it is, it's something to really bear in mind, like where you're heading, what's your why, what's long-term vision.
And our brains love a map. They love to see where they're going. You know, what you focus on is what you end up getting, which is why it's so important to have that positive outlook and focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. And it's like having a map to a destination you're headed to, where your destination is your outcome, and then your map become the daily steps that you take, the strategies that help keep you on course. So having that outcome, that map, that goal in mind, and as you say, having a long-term outcome is very compelling for our brain. You know, it really creates the juiciness of the goal, rather than I just want to get into a certain dress, which is not really that compelling for our brain, versus I want energy and better sleep, I want better relationships with the people around me, I want better productivity, I want to really optimize my experience of life. Now those are outcomes that you can start to get excited about, and they keep you on track because they're much more compelling to you on a long-term basis, rather than I just want to get into a certain pair of jeans.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great thing to say. And also with the festive season coming and this whole idea of material gifts, it's perhaps a good idea to shift the focus on perhaps the biggest gift you can give your family is showing up as the better version of yourself, showing up as that fitter, healthier, more vitalized you, because you know your children, your spouse, your wife, your husband, your sister, your brother, your parents, it's not so much about the greatest gift they're going to get, it's about the greatest you that they're going to get, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're here on this earth to experience that, to access the best version of us, to give our gift to the world, which is whatever particular purpose you have. It might be to be the best mother, it might be to be the most you know, the best grandmother, or a great health advisor, whatever it might be. Being the best version of you is, you know, it's part of, I believe, the purpose we have gives us that growth. And as part of our human needs, the spirit needs that experience of growth in order to feel alive and feel energized. And when we don't have that feeling of growth, it can really set our energy at a low level.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to the kitchen and the pantry and everything that can be either a threat or temptation, what would be your greatest tip for our audience in terms of...
So as I mentioned, first is to get your outcome. Now the second thing that you need to get in place for setting yourself up for success is taking action. Now this is where having a plan in place for your Christmas festive period, for even if it's not Christmas and you're just trying to break the habit of eating certain foods and turning to sugar for comfort, or to, you know, when you want to cut down on your alcohol consumption, it's really important to set yourself up for success by having empowering alternatives. So for example, alcohol. Everyone likes to drink at Christmas, you know. Let's look at how we mitigate the negative effects of alcohol on the body. So we know that alcohol has a real impact on our liver. It causes an inflammatory reaction. then our master antioxidant glutathione has to dampen down the inflammatory effects. It essentially stops the liver from doing its day-to-day job in detoxification and immediately wants to get rid of the alcohol. So it's depleting us of glutathione, which then causes premature aging and an inflammatory reaction. It can increase fatty deposits in the liver because of ethanol being essentially unusable to the body. So there's more fat deposition in the liver, which has further negative consequences. So we really want to be looking at, okay, how do we improve liver function so that, you know, we're mitigating the effects of alcohol? We can look at the type of alcohol we're drinking. So rather than having a spirit, or a spirit with a really sugary mixer, or orange juice or Coke, which is giving you the fructose and the ethanol, so you're essentially getting the double whammy sugar, we can look at maybe having red wine, which has higher levels of antioxidants and a slightly acidic effect on the gut. So when you have red wine with your meal, you're at least having some benefits in terms of the acidity. Drinking alcohol with your meal again, which is really important because you're slowing down the release of alcohol. Alcohol goes into the stomach, but it's absorbed through the small intestine. So when you're eating, when you're having your drink, the food slows down the release of alcohol into the small intestine, therefore slowing the release into the body. So having alcohol with a meal and having it at a moderate amount, not at binge quantities, starts to reduce the impact on the body, and it reduces the speed at which alcohol enters your bloodstream. The other things we can do are looking at things to boost the liver's function during this festive period. So making sure your body's getting all of the raw ingredients needed to make glutathione. So sulfur-rich foods like cauliflower, broccoli, selenium-rich foods like Brazil nuts, so that your body can make its own master antioxidant. Then you can eat foods rich in glutathione like avocados and spinach. Broccoli again is a rich source of glutathione itself. So your liver's getting these raw ingredients to help, as you know, right, I'm entering this slightly unhealthy period, I'm going to eat certain foods to support liver function. Milk thistle is another great way of supporting your liver. If you're having a few drinks, maybe taking a milk thistle throughout the week to help with the detoxification process. Milk thistle is rich in antioxidants again that support the liver. And there is also research that shows the importance of DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid. And when we drink, it has this inflammatory reaction as it passes the blood-brain barrier, and it can have this negative impact on our brain function. So having extra fish oils during that period when you're drinking to provide that neuroprotective effect on the brain cells whilst you're having a drink or two can really help with that post-alcohol jittery feeling that you get when your DHA is leached out the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one, if I may add on to that, would be also in terms of protecting the liver, as our para has, to eat liver, to really go into that like ancestral principle. Because I absolutely love all the vegetables and the root plant that you mentioned, and I am a big fan of those. But I think it's also really important to have things that we might not want to think about at first. I still get these really strange reactions when I talk about liver. It's like, oh no, my mom forced me. Like, oh, and I'm just thinking, right, okay, and you're still behaving like a child.
A bit of patty at Christmas can't go wrong.
and really, it's about wrapping your head around this idea that medicine or food is your medicine, or can be your medicine. So I love that you said that. Of course, indulge and, you know, maybe have one, maybe have 2 glasses of red wine, but just be mindful of the consequences and how you can mitigate that. So absolutely, you know, have your cauliflower, have your Brazil nuts, and perhaps have a serving of liver, have your oily fish, have your mackerel, have your sardines, and just think about the consequences, effect, mitigation.
It's like I see it as sort of a bank where you have health on one side, things that take away from your health, they deplete your bank account, and then you're making deposits. So as you have a couple of glasses of wine, as you know, stay up late and you might have a few snacks at night, make sure you're adding those deposits to your bank so that you're creating that balance again. Otherwise you find it getting lower and lower and lower, and come January you're just at, you know, your bank account's at rock bottom, your health bank account that is, and you just find your energy's low, your health is starting to suffer. And from that place it's really hard to then get yourself back on track and feel motivated. Whereas if you've been enjoying yourself with a few glasses of red wine, but then adding your deposits with your meats, your organ meats, your Brazil nuts, your mushrooms and your avocados, and you're having your red wine with your meals and still being sociable and enjoying it in that way, it's a very different picture to, well, I'm just going to completely let go, let loose, you know, just overindulge and then feel really terrible come January.
Absolutely. And Pauline, what are your recommendations for our audience? Because I know this question comes often, where you address the question of wine, and I love that you talk about this, because I think alcohol is one of the biggest threats when trying to be health centric. What would you tell our audience is reasonable, not reasonable? Like where is that
quantity wise?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that would be great.
So I would say, you know, personally I don't drink, but that's a choice I've made for a long time, and I find other ways to relax. I don't say to people don't drink. I think it's a personal choice. But if I was to be a drinker, I would have no more than 2 glasses of wine at one time, because I think there's some research to show that your brain cells can almost be they can respond to alcohol to a certain level by becoming used to it, for want of a better word.
Right.
Beyond that, there's that neurodegenerative effect that alcohol has on the brain. So there's that very fine balance between how much is good for me and how much tips me over the edge. And the research I've read suggests 2 glasses is about where that lies at the moment.
Yeah, actually, it's great that you've mentioned that, because if I can add like a little anecdotal personal story, I think I could describe myself as a very light social drinker, especially being French, having been brought up in Le Médoc and in Bordeaux. I feel like, you know, it would be an insult of my heritage if I never had red wine, especially when I'm with my dad. However, I do try to keep it very moderate and be very conscious. And I want to share this little anecdotal story. I've noticed when it comes to my HRV and my deep sleep, anywhere up to 2 glasses, I'm still having a good night's sleep.
Yes.
If I'm having, and I'm going to be honest, there's been evening when I had festive 3rd glass, then my sleep is affected. It really is.
It affects your REM, and then you just don't get that deep sleep.
It does. Yeah, it really does. And it's great that you've mentioned this quantity, because I've noticed it, and I've spoken to a lot of other people that track their sleep and track their heart variability, and it's been talked a lot as well in the biohacking community, and it's that 3rd glass that's going to take you in a place you don't want to be. And I think when it comes to enjoyment, how much more are you going to enjoy your wine if you're going to have 3 glasses? You know?
Absolutely. And that, I think that's where there is that fine balance, having it with food where it has a slower release into the system, it has less of an impact, it gives your body the opportunity to deal with it at a better rate, and it comes down to what's the effect you're looking for. And some people use, I mean, let's be honest, food is the most overutilized drug we have, but it's also the most underutilized drug we have. You know, we can use it for such powerful effects on the body, and yet we do use it for such powerful, seemingly negative, it depends how you view it, effects on the body. Whereas sugar gives us this high, and, you know, caffeine gives us a high, and alcohol gives us this deep feeling of relaxation, and then loss of certain we have these inhibitions when we've been drinking certain amounts of alcohol. So I think if it's for getting to the point where you can really switch off your brain, so you're not doing that excessive thinking that you have when you're in adrenal fatigue, then addressing the adrenal fatigue, addressing the excessive thinking is a really important part of the bigger picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now I think the other big threat, and I know you're an expert on beautiful, healthy dessert, and I absolutely love everything that you do. I have to say, every time I look at your page and your kitchen, I'm really feeling a bit hungry because it's so beautiful. So what would you tell our audience when it comes to, you know, those sweet threats, and what are they and how can we mitigate that?
So I believe, again, it's really important when you're looking to create lasting change that these become part of your values. They're not just, it's not part of a diet, it's part of a bigger picture. You know, why am I doing this? Well, I want to remove gluten because of the damaging effects it has on my gut, because it's creating inflammation in my body. Therefore, I want to find an alternative where I can still enjoy cake, I can still enjoy biscuits, I can still enjoy, you know, a lovely dessert, but it has no gluten in it. So when I look at the way I live, the way I eat, I focus very much on certain values. You know, just like I would say I'm not a smoker, I would also say, well, I just don't eat gluten. So for me, there are some absolute no-nos, and that would be anything made with wheat or highly processed foods. So it's finding ways of recreating things that you love, like a chocolate cake, for example. You know, if someone's saying, I just can't give up chocolate cake, we need to change the focus from, well, I'm not giving it up, I'm just recreating it to fit with my values. So, you know, using almond flour and lowering your palate for sweetness. Yes, there are all these alternative sweeteners, but I think really what we need to look at is reducing our need for sweetness and trying to desensitize ourselves to that highly sweetened environment that we've kind of been exposed to for so long now. And then your desire for sweetness becomes less and less. And that's why my love for 100% chocolate is so strong, because I very rarely give myself those very sweetened foods, even the xylitol sweetened and the erythritol sweetened. So finding those alternatives that still give you that pleasure and that satisfaction of the food that you love, but without the negative impact. And that takes time, you know, it takes time to, you might start off with, you're on a Cadbury's bar, which has lots of sugar and lots of other things in it. And you say, right, I'm going to a 75% dark, organic, British made chocolate. From there, you might go to an 80%, and you're training your palate, and you're like, right, I'm going to 90, and then you might even hit 100. And that process takes a bit of time. But as your palate adapts, you know, so do you. And you just find that, well, this is just what I eat now, and this is just what I enjoy.
Absolutely. And Paulina, as you know, and as primal believer and primal path practitioner, we're very much into eliminating those inflammatory grain and eliminating all the gluten and the wheat. And I'm sure you have that too, but I often get a pushback, and I thought it would be amazing to have you cover that on, but I'm not gluten intolerant, so it's not relevant to me. And I'm sure you've heard that a million times and more. What do you say to that?
What I say to people is, you don't always feel, if we felt the effects of gluten, like celiacs do, that celiac is an extreme reaction to gluten. If we experience those immediate reactions, we would deem ourselves intolerant. Now, because we don't always get that immediate reaction, that immediate feeling or sensation, we don't link our migraines to the bread we ate yesterday. We don't link our knee pain to the pasta we had 2 days ago. What we need to understand is the inflammatory impact of certain foods on our gut, the integrity of our gut, and the ability of these foods to open up the gut lining and allow food to enter our bloodstream and our blood-brain barrier, and creating this impact on the body that comes as a result of eating certain foods, but not necessarily immediately. And that slow trickling impact is sadly the impact that gluten can have on our body. It is an indigestible protein that does damage the integrity of the gut lining.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pauline. So we've covered alcohol as the thread, we've covered gluten and grains as the thread, we've covered sweet. The other big enemy when it comes to the season, industrial oil and all those crazy oils that did not even used to exist. So I think that's really something that we must bring to the attention.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Of the public is grandmother, even, they didn't know what canola oil is. Actually, I still don't know what soybean oil is. It's that trans fat engineered chemical bomb that is just one of the worst.
So damaging. It is incredibly damaging to our bodies, and you know, it's one of the things that's driving chronic inflammation in the body. And you know, really, as we become more aware of inflammatory fats and healthy fats, we can stop demonizing fat as a subject and start categorizing it as healthy fats and unhealthy fats, and looking at the kind of fats that we're giving our body. You know, you often see people on a keto diet who aren't looking at the healthy aspect of, you know, low carb and healthy fats. They're just looking at blanket keto, and they're eating inflammatory fats, rapeseed oils, and all these sunflower oil rich foods, and they're wondering A, why they feel rubbish, and B, why they're not losing weight. When we're in this inflamed state, the body retains fat, particularly belly fat, because it's trying to protect itself from all the inflammation. It will take inflammatory and toxins within the body and just package them up in fat and hold it around the body. So it is really important that we look at the lifestyle aspect of what we're doing and see that it's not just about manipulating the body to lose weight, because there are several diets that will do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a healthy way of doing it. And eventually the body starts to tell you that this is not the right path, because you'll feel tired, or you'll start craving foods, or your weight loss will cease, and then you get frustrated and you think, this didn't work for me. There are ways that we can just enjoy food, working with our physiology, and as a side effect of that healthy pathway weight loss results. So as you mentioned, there are many foods on the market that are just ready and waiting for the Christmas cheer to begin. And these are your crisps that are cooked in sunflower oil, olives that are now packaged in sunflower oil, your sun-dried tomatoes in sunflower oil, your mayonnaises, which are made with rapeseed oil. All of these are inflammatory fats that will cause cellular damage. They will cause premature aging. They will cause damage to your joints. They are just not the fats we want to be adding into our bodies. And it's important to recognize that you will always pay more for a healthy version. For example, we eat an awful lot of avocado mayonnaise, and we love avocado mayonnaise. It's made with avocado oil, and it's probably 3 times the price of a regular mayonnaise. However, it's made with avocado oil, and not a drop of rapeseed oil has gone near it. But the alternative, which is made with the inflammatory fats, is going to have such a negative impact on our health that we choose to invest in our health through purchasing something that's a higher cost. And I think when we stop seeing food as black and white, as cheap and expensive, instead of seeing it as healthful and having a negative and damaging effect on my body, then we can start to make more informed decisions and become more conscious about the choices we make about the food we eat.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing that I love, and I know you do a lot, and I really admire that, because I think we have this primal passion that's very very vivid, is that yes, primal can be expensive, but it can be also very inexpensive. And the first thing that comes to mind is bone broth. You know, you've eaten that chicken already, you've had that T-bone already, you've had all those bones at your disposal, and you're probably going to give them to your dog, lucky dog, or put them in the bin. How about you just recycle it out of respect also for the animal that you've eaten, and for your own body, and have that collagen, and have that beautiful simmering. And especially when it's festive season, you want to have that warm cup, and it's quite family friendly, I think, to put chicken broth on, or beef broth. And I have to say, I really love your recipe in your book. For everyone that hasn't seen it yet, I really highly recommend Pauline's book. I've already made like little circles and little hearts everywhere, But one thing I wanted to mention in particular, because actually that's something we do in the same manner, and I really love your recipe, is the chicken broth and how you add the chicken feet. And that really is something I wanted to cover on the rebuttal against the idea that Primal has to be something that is only for the elite with disposable wealth. It's not the truth. Primal can be very inexpensive, and Primal is a lifestyle. It really
absolutely is. It is. And you'll also find when you're living a primal lifestyle, A, you eat less, B, you buy a lot less from supermarkets, you become very selective about the products in your fridge and your cupboard, you know. Whereas maybe 10 years ago, my cupboard was full and half the things I didn't even know what was in there. They'd be stuck at the back of the cupboard. I might have bought 2 years ago. Now it's very select. The things that are in there get used very regularly. The same in the fridge. And as you'll see in the book, there's a whole section on primal pantry, primal fridge, primal supplements, and showing that you don't need, you know, tons and tons of stuff, just those choice things that you can make a meal in minutes out of, and that are, you know, inexpensive, like eggs and cheese or bone broth and organ meats if you want organ meats, or just great meat that's like mince meat, but good quality grass-fed mince meat, which isn't that expensive. It's just starting to understand, you know, how you can live a way where you go to your farmer's market, you go to the local fruit and veg shop, and you want organic, but you talk to your fruit and veg shop and say, okay, it might not be labeled as organic, but who do you know out of what you're selling that don't spray their, you know, their raspberries, or they don't spray their kale? So it might not be certified organic because it's expensive for a farmer to certify their soil as organic, but they might be growing it organically without spraying. So, you know, it's discussing these things with your local farmer's market, with your local butcher, finding your delis and your health food shops that are supplying quality, locally made nut butters and all of these lovely artisan products that are made with love and care, and not just something that you find on the supermarket shelf that the profit comes before the health aspect.
Absolutely. I love that you described all of this. And for anyone that hasn't had a copy yet, again, I just wanted to show it. And I'll put the link as well of your book. I've gone through it pretty much back to back.
I'm so pleased you're enjoying it.
It's really great, you know, to connect at that level, and I think it's important to share the message and to be, you know, primal ambassadors, and to show the way, and to also, you know, leave everyone with that message. It's accessible whether you're single, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you have a big family, whether you have a small family, whether you live in a city and the country. You can. It takes a bit of effort and willingness, but it's accessible, and it's the way we used to live. And I think that's probably one of my favorite sentences in your book. I'm just going to read it out loud.
You go for it. You go for it, Charlene.
We're essentially cavemen living in a concrete world, and really let's repeat that over and over again as this Christmas period is approaching. How much of the thing on the table presented to you for so-called celebration are from a natural world? Those things are just Frankenstein food. They're engineered for you to be addicted, overweight, and to be chronically ill. So the question is that short-term satisfaction worth the long-term price tag, which is your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think the more, there's a section that I speak about in the book when it comes to intermittent fasting. The more you do intermittent fasting, the stronger it builds that part of your brain that can say no. And
absolutely.
It's really interesting when you start to understand how your brain works, and you kind of, we're not born with a user manual, but what we need to do is start to work with the primitive brain we have and start figuring out how we can override the desires of these foods that food manufacturers really know how to create to get us hooked on and disrupt our metabolic hormones and our blood sugars, and it really becomes this roller coaster. And you know, people think that they don't have any discipline and that they don't have any willpower, when actually it's nothing to do with that. It's this disruption of our metabolic hormones that causes us to go crazy when we don't get these highly addictive foods in our system anymore. So starting to work with our caveman genes and understanding how we can work in a world that's at odds with that caveman gene is really crucial to creating that long-term sustainable change.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Pauline. I'm already looking forward to our next episode to encourage everybody to stay healthy within this festive period. And it's always such a pleasure and delight to speak to you. I think we could make this last another 3 hours, but we're going to try and keep it sharp and sweet and focused. And I think we covered a lot of really, really interesting points, leaving food for thought for our audience. And next time we can go and perhaps talk about hormones balancing.
Yeah, which again is really important, linked to our diet, linked to the daily habits we undertake. And I think people really feel with hormones that they're out of control, but there's so much we can do to create balance within our own little
great
world
our
going
next
on
episode subject's been that would be great. Thank you so much, Pauline. Again, I wish you such a good evening, and I'll make sure I share the link to your book. And again, thanks so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge and wisdom and kindness to our audience tonight. I'm really grateful.
You're very welcome. Lovely to see you, Shani. Take care.
Lovely to see you.
Bye,
too.
guys. Bye.
Bye.